Welcome to Modern Day Abigails. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." So let's listen to God's Word, where everyday lives transform and where we can become the women God created us to be. He's a loving father. I know there's so many women who've had really bad dads, and they haven't had a real good man in their life to show what it should be like. And there's a lot of hurt women because of it. But God the Father is not human. He is not like an earthly dad. He is beyond that. And when he says he cares and never leaves you or forsake you, he's serious about it. And there's a lot of women who've had men leave them, abandoned them. But God said, I haven't done that. If you give me your life, and there will be I will never be away from you. I mean, he's always around us anyway. Nobody knows what it's like not to be with the Lord. But there is going to be a time and place that if we haven't made a decision for Jesus, there is a place we're going to go, and we will be separated forever. And I don't want to see anybody go through that. Not on my watch. Not on your watch.
And we don't actually know what that means.
No, we don't.
Because we've never been, as she said, we've never been without his presence. Okay. So, and the thing about God is no matter what you tell him, he can take it.
Yes.
He's a big God. He's got big arms and he's got big hugs. And so you just start talking to him. Yeah. Just pour your heart out.
And if there's a way that you're going that's wrong, he's going to gently get you back. Yeah. Sometimes he has to yank you because you're about to fall off a cliff. Okay.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
And yeah, me too. And it's okay too. Because you realize you're like, oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So we just wanted, that was our little detour,
right.
Our little pit stop.
Pit stop? We can do that.
Little vacation spot.
Yeah. Okay. Pit stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm writing some stuff down.
That's fine.
Pit stop, vacation spot, rest area.
Yeah. Rest area is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to our 2.0 version. Back to the famine. So I found this really cool little thing, and we're going to break it down a little bit. And so y'all stay with me here because there's 10 bullet points. And okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna see.
It's only 9. You're good.
Did you actually count them?
Yes.
Of course you did, Anna.
About to say, did you doubt I would?
No, I didn't.
I'm the one who counts the stuff in my basket to see if I can go into 15 or less line.
Oh my gosh. No, okay, there's enough in there. Okay, there's not enough. I mean, I'm good. Let's get in line. Okay. I don't care. Okay. I'm a rebel. I'm not a rule follower. Okay. Anyway, listen.
A rebel for the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't break the law.
That's true. Okay. So, all right. So we're gonna break down our bullet points, which is a bunch of fun little snapshots, so we can get the big picture of what's going on here between the church and Jesus. And this is the 2.0 view. Okay. So the picture of the Jewish.
Remind them that when we talk about that, the church is the bride of Christ. It's the church as a whole. Not one particular denomination or one particular group of people. We're saying when we talk about the church, we're meaning the body of believers. Yes. All of those who've confessed with their mouth the Lord Jesus and believed in their hearts that he was raised from the dead. That collective church, which is known as the bride of Christ.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Perfect.
Just because we got new listeners who don't know these things.
That's true. I did not explain that. So that's awesome.
In other countries.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Okay. So this is a picture of the Jewish people rejecting Jesus. Okay. So what happens which by the way, it happens all throughout the Bible, is actually still happening today. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is not only a picture of what was happening at that moment, but also a foretelling of what would continue to happen in the future, which is also today.
Yes.
Okay. So here we go. Stay with me here. All right, we're going to talk about, the Jewish family. Amalek and his family, they were a Jewish family. Okay, so the Jewish family, a.k.a. the people, they left Bethlehem. Okay, Bethlehem means the house of bread.
Amen.
Okay, so Jesus is our bread of life. Mm-hmm. He's our life giver.
Right.
Okay, Jesus, ladies, he was born in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they left the house of bread during a famine.
I know, that sounds funny, doesn't it?
I know it does, but they did.
But we do that all the time.
Yes. Okay. Yes. No,
sorry.
You're going to spoil. Okay. So the Jewish people rejected the bread of life and were dispersed through the nations as a result of a spiritual famine.
Mm-hmm.
The name of Malon, which is one of the sons, translates as sick or sickly. The name of Chilion, which is the other son, translates as wasting, failing, or pining.
One of the ones I read said that meant also suffer a mental or physical decline. So he might have had a mental illness. Chilion might have had a mental illness.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Not in a good way. What we mean nice is to see how the Lord works with that.
Yeah.
With our minds.
Yeah, not nice that he had a mental illness, but it's just adding to the bigger picture.
Yes.
Golden nugget to the picture. Okay, so you can see... Let's kind of see a different version of this. You can, just by their names, you can see that they were sick and pining for something more. This family was. So they left the house of bread, aka the Jews left. They turned their back on Jesus all throughout the Bible, as well as today. But they aren't the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
So do the Gentiles.
Yep.
We are not exempt from disregarding, leaving, and turning our backs on Jesus, which is our life giver, our sustainer, our bread of life. So the question is, did you have something to say?
No, I'm sorry. I was just moving.
Okay. So the question is, does God turn his back on us? When we walk away, even for a short time, does God turn his back on us? We're not going to answer that question yet. We're going to read on.
Right.
And we're going to see what God does. And this is why we're not peeking ahead. This is why we're not peeking ahead.
I'm not going to stop anybody. I'm not going to stop anybody. Ladies, if you want to read the rest of the book of Ruth and then come back and follow along, you can.
Fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
I know.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. And that's okay. Because you're still going to pick up more every time you read it. That's what's neat, is that we both read it and we see it from different points of view. But it's the same thing. It's not like a different interpretation. It's just we get to see it from different points of view, the same exact thing. Like, I'm looking at your bottle of water over there. I see it from a very different perspective than you do.
Which is how you see my
I get to see the whole.
water.
I see the whole wording. I know exactly it's Pellegrino, but you don't see that side. You see the ingredient side.
I do.
So it's the same bottle.
Yeah.
So we're not interpreting it different. We just see it from a different point of view. I see the name. You see the ingredients.
Meaning she's giving you permission to do the spoiler alert peek sneak.
Because you're still going to learn something because you're going to turn the bottle around and see the other side.
I'm saying I think it would be more fun to wait and gather more info.
But if they're excited about this book, I'm not going to stop anybody from reading God's Word.
Okay, that's true. Okay. Listen, I'm not winning this fight. It's not happening.
Just throwing it out there.
All right. Fine. Do what you want to do, girls. Do what you want to do. I'm just saying.
Because we're seeing that beautiful picture of how much, just in that one sentence, how much Jesus is to us and how he doesn't want anybody to walk away. But when they do, he's got a plan.
Oh, he certainly does.
And he made
it's a good one.
Because people don't understand the covenant promise. That's what Ray's been talking about on Sundays, the covenant promise. They don't understand the covenant cannot be broken.
Now, we only touch on covenant a little bit as of now, but go ahead, Anna, and talk.
So,
do you have something to say about the covenant?
So I want people to understand the covenant. When God makes a covenant, it means he makes a promise. He does not renege or go back on it because he's
not human, first of all.
He always keeps his promises. He doesn't lie. So when God made a promise to Noah first, he made the Noahic covenant, meaning I'm not going to destroy the world with water again. I'm not going to flood the earth again. That's why we see a rainbow. It is not because it's a lifestyle choice. It's because God said, I'm making a promise right now. I'm not going to destroy the earth with flood again. His second covenant comes through Abraham. And that's where you're going to talk about it later, where Abraham, he said, I will bless you, those who bless you. But he also, what he said is I'm going to multiply your descendants across the earth. You're not going to be able to number it. If you think you can number the stars in the sky, the sands on the beach, go for it. Because I'm going to number it. He said, so when God made that promise to Abraham, he can't back up on it. So when there was that famine that you were talking about, bye, I love you. So when he talks about that famine.
He's coming in here.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh,
is he?
I don't know. I thought he was leaving.
Never mind.
I think he's leaving.
He's right here on the other side of the wall.
Okay. I think he's probably leaving. Oh, anyway. So when God
makes
that
covenant, your husband, you tell me.
Well, it is about noon. He might be going to eat lunch. We had a late breakfast. because he ate breakfast tacos at the coffee with cops. Anyway, so what I'm saying about the covenant is we have to understand that covenant cannot be broken. God's going to be faithful in that covenant. We can't lose it. We can't disregard it. We can't get rid of it. If we truly get under God's covenant, we cannot lose it. And if somebody says that they lost it, that means you were never under it in the first place.
Or that you flat out just don't understand. So that's why we want you to understand.
This part is that this goes with that covenant she's going to talk about, because God's going to keep his promise. And we're going to see that in this family's life, that he didn't stop it. He kept his promise.
It's an amazing reflection on how he keeps his promise. Again, I want to say that God is not like us. We are wishy-washy. Yes. We go back on our words. We do takesy-backsies.
Yeah.
And
we're not supposed to.
Right.
But we do.
He doesn't.
No.
If he says he's going to do something, he may not do it the way we want him to. He may not do it in the time frame we want him to, but he is going to do it. He's going to do it his way. He's going to do it the way that's best for us, even if we don't understand it at the time. But he's not like us. When he says he promises, he actually promises.
Yes.
He's never reneged on that, not one time. And we're going to see that all through this family's life, and all through this story is what we're going to see. And it's just amazing. So, all right, let's get to it. Okay. Where were we?
You're on verse 3, I think.
So we were talking about, does God turn his back on us? And we're going to find out. Okay, so verse 3, chapter 1, verse 3. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab, because this is now where they lived. The name of one of the wives was Orpah, and the other's name was Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. Both Mahlon and Chilion also died. So the woman, Naomi, parentheses Naomi, survived her 2 sons and her husband. So, tragic love story. It's a tragic love story.
I don't know if it was love or not, but it's definitely tragic.
You don't think it was a tragic love story? There were...
I don't know. It might have been... I don't know.
See, this is Anna's version of a love story.
I can't tell.
Did they really love each other or not? We don't know.
I don't know.
Listen, I'm going to say that they loved each other. That's what we're going... This is my story. I'm saying... Listen, I'm the one doing this. I'm going to say that they
I'm just saying God did not.
Other.
I'm just saying God didn't say that. But we do see where Ruth loves her mother-in-law.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Listen. Okay, I'm just saying. It turned tragic. Can we both agree on that it turned tragic?
Yes, it did. It did. It was very tragic.
It turned tragic. All the men died. That's pretty tragic.
Yes.
Okay. All the women were left as widows. We can agree that that's also tragic.
Yes, I agree.
Widows with no heirs, by the way.
Right,
okay.
Which I have comments about that later.
Okay, so, I'm wondering if it matches my comments now. Okay,
probably.
So during this particular era, it was a pretty horrible, scary, traumatic thing to be a widow. Because women back then, they didn't have possessions, they didn't have jobs, they didn't have an income, they were dependent on the husband for this. This was solely the husband's job. These women were destined to be destitute.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, absolutely.
Great.
100%.
Okay. So, therefore, I have labeled this a very tragic
it is very
love
tragic.
and life story. This is what I've labeled it. Okay. So, at this point, looking at this, it looks like God did turn his back on this family. It looks like God turned his back on this family when they left the house of bread, their life giver. Okay? That's what it looks like. But this chapter, it doesn't end here.
No.
Okay. This is just the first 3 to 5 verses.
And then Naomi, I was going to add on there that Naomi, I don't think you talk about this yet. Maybe you did. Do you talk about her being considered the remnant?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'll leave it alone.
Don't go there.
Nope. I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's at the end.
Just, okay. Mine was when I talked about it, it was, when I had written my notes earlier, it was sooner. So that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just making sure. I did read through your notes. I just didn't go, I skimmed through it this morning. Sorry.
Well, I only sent them to you a day before. So,
and I didn't get a chance to look at it last night. So it was at I actually slept till a whole 6.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep. Well, I don't say I didn't sleep. I laid awake until a whole 6.
Yeah. So it's fine.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So let's pop on over to verse 6 and see what happens with these girls. Okay. Did you raise your hand?
Not yet.
You did not? Okay. All right. Verse 6. Then she, Naomi, arose with her daughters-in-law. It just sounds weird. Looks weird too. Okay. We're going with daughters-in-law.
That's the way it was written, so we should.
Okay. That's what we're going with. That she might return from the country. What?
You didn't talk about Moab and why this is a no-no. They weren't supposed to marry women from Moab. God told them.
I do talk about that.
Okay, we're just in the different order. Sorry.
Yes, a very different order.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's coming up.
Okay.
In fact, it's next.
Okay,
so
cool.
We got this. Okay. Anna has previous notes.
I do. I'm so sorry.
And she wanted to intertwine them.
And I shouldn't have.
And she's going to intertwine them. She's just intertwining them at wrong orders.
Well,
so
wait.
A wrong order from my notes.
My order just didn't match your order, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. So let me start over. Verse 6. Then we're going to get there, girls. We're going to get there. Okay. Then Naomi, rose with her daughters-in-law. We agreed this is daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard that in the country of Moab, that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. More talk about bread there.
Right.
Okay. We're going to pay attention to this bread verbiage because it continues to be used. It becomes very important. Okay. All right. So we're going to take a rest stop here.
You did. You actually put the word pit stop and rest area.
Rest stop.
I love it.
Okay. Cool. This is what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to do a rest stop right here. Okay. So let's break this. How many verses was that? 1?
Yes.
6. Okay. It was only one verse.
One verse.
We are trucking right along. All right. Let's break the verse 6 down. Okay. So Naomi heard that the Lord had visited his people and gave them bread. The life giver, Jesus, gave them sustenance. So we're going to go. So what she was going back home, she wanted to see if this is true. She's going to make a trip back home to see if this was true. She was desperate to survive at this point because of what had just happened to her. So what did she do? She took off back home. She headed back to the life giver, the house of bread. Okay, so when we stray, keyword here is we stray. We are the ones that stray. We move. We walk off. The Lord doesn't. He is stable. He isn't wavering and wishy-washy about anything. That's our characteristic, not his. We flip-flop. He never does. When we walk off from him, he didn't move. We did.
Right.
Okay. So that's important to keep in mind. Okay. So the Lord gives us sustenance in many forms. He gives us life, which can last forever if we choose him, if we choose a relationship with him. He also protects us. He provides for us. He takes care of us. All sustenance. Naomi, she had no one to do that for her. Her husband and both sons were gone. So now it's just the 3 girls, and then they were in Moab. Moab is where the 2 young wives were from, but Naomi came from Bethlehem. The 2 girls didn't. The sons met their wives in Moab and they married in Moab. So their situation was not the same as Naomi's. She had no more family. They had all died. The girls had family in their hometown. They had options. They had help. And Naomi had nothing and no one. Okay, so she thought.
Right.
So she thought. So trauma and tragedy are very different experiences when you have help.
Right.
So when you don't, you have an utter feeling of loneliness and hopelessness, and it's absolutely overwhelming. And so I love that the Lord put Anna and I together for many, many reasons. But one example is that, and we use this all the time with the girls, is that our first marriages was very similar to each other's, and they were very traumatic
and abusive.
But our overall situation was not.
Right.
Because Anna and I are examples of the flip side of these trauma stories.
Yes.
One of us had help after the trauma, and one of us did not.
Right.
And so I wanted to I wanted us to just give a quick synopsis of you give yours and I'll give mine, and I'll go first, of how our situations were and how they were opposite.
Right.
Because it's these girls.
Right.
So, I was in an abusive marriage, and it was an absolute mess, and it was for a total of 18 years. And both of my parents had passed away, and I didn't have close family. So when I was going through this whole situation, nobody knew. Nobody knew the abuse that I was going through. Nobody knew anything. And then when my parents died and I was trying to leave and get out, I didn't have anywhere to go. So I stayed, and I stayed for another 8 years in the abuse. And I felt trapped and just utter despair because I didn't have help. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I did have a friend that I talked to, but she could only help me a little bit. And it was only at the very end. It wasn't all through my marriage. It was only at the very end of my marriage. And when I was trying to break away from the abuse, and she was a huge puzzle piece that the Lord implanted. But all before that, I didn't have help. I didn't have anybody. And so I stayed, and it was an absolute game changer in my life in a horrible way. And so that was me. I didn't have anybody. But Anna's story is the flip side.
Right. Because I was in an abusive relationship, and part of it was just because I was very ignorant, and I didn't know anything better. I mean, there were some things, the Lord gave me ways of getting out before I got married out of that bad relationship. But I just kept thinking, oh no, well, this is fixable. This is fixable. And it is if you have two believers. But if you have one who's a believer but not grounded or not discipled or not studying, versus a person who's not a believer at all, it doesn't go well. And that's exactly what happened. In the abuse got going to where it was escalating until one day. He is the one who decided. He goes, you know what? I think we need a divorce, and you need to go home. And I'm like, well, what about marriage counseling? What about this? I'll even go to a church that you want to go to, like a Catholic church, because at that point he had decided he was Catholic because he was Irish, which he was none of that.
Makes total sense.
That's what I dealt with. So and I'm like, and he's, well, I'll let you know on Monday or on Wednesday. And so on a Wednesday he said, yeah, we're getting divorced. And it was just like that. So everybody's told me, they're like, yeah, there was somebody else, Anna. I'm like, well, he said he's going to have a guy move in. They're like, yeah, right. So, but I did have somewhere like that, we are going to talk about how Naomi is a picture of a remnant. There was a remnant in my household. My family, my parents were there, and I was allowed to go home. As soon as he said that, and I made a phone call to my parents, they're like, yeah, you're coming over, you're coming home. And it was so I was only in my situation for about 2 years. And the Lord, 2 years. And so the Lord got me out of it, and he rescued me, and I had a place to go. And even though I did live with my family, I still, because I was only making $9 an hour, I would not have been able to get out. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my family. And so they let me stay there. I did pay them rent. I cleaned their house, cooked meals, did whatever I could to say thank you. Mm-hmm. And because of it, though, I was able to grow and get help and learn and, get better.
Your son was safe.
Yeah, my son was in a safe environment. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to worry about him, especially after I don't know what his biological dad did, but he did something wrong, and he disappeared for like 5 years. I didn't forget. So that was the first thing I did. I quizzed him, and that's when I gave Stevie the control of the situation. Because I told him flat out, I'm like, if he wants to see you, he will see you. If he doesn't want to see you, he won't see you, because I know you did something, and I don't know what it was, but I know you did something. And it scared him enough to go. And so when we did, the neat thing is we'll have to talk about it later because of how Ray was in that picture, and Ray made Stevie feel safe. Because after a year of that, and I was divorced and everything, we met Ray, and Ray started showing Stevie that protection. I'm going to protect you. So he got to see that protection, whereas before he did not. And I think we're going to see that in this book with Ruth and Naomi, and how God is protecting them, and he watches over their protection.
And this is another example of how when you have help and when you don't, because there was several times that I've never even told anybody this. There were several times that Sean and I were almost homeless.
Yeah.
Because I did not make enough to support a baby.
Right.
And I didn't have help, and didn't have parents to go to, and didn't have anybody else's family of my own,
right,
to stay with, not on a permanent long time basis. And life was extremely difficult, and so there's a difference there.
Yeah,
and so I can totally feel Naomi's situation of how she is, but she
had a place to go, because Naomi did have a place to go. If you think, she got to go home, back to her people,
right? And we're going to talk about that. How we're going to talk about that?
We are. I know. Okay. I'm just saying, is that did make a difference. Like you said, there is a big difference when we have a home to go to or not, and that's just like as a believer in Jesus. As a believer in Jesus, we have a home to go to. It's called heaven with the Lord. If you're not a believer, you don't have a home to go to, and you will be in a pit. I mean, because that's what the Lord calls the hell, is a pit. And so I am very grateful, because like I said, I'm not sure where it was going. Because in my situation, I think you got into a similar situation. He was starting to threaten death, threatening to kill me, threatening to beat me. And the Lord snatched me and rescued me out of that before it actually happened. Chairs flew, things like that.
Oh, yes. Numerous times his hands were around my throat, and I was to the point of passing out on one of them, until I threw my hands up and I'm like, just do it.
Yep.
And then his face changed and he let go of my throat, and I was breathing again.
What's funny is, I hate to say it that way, but I know we probably have some listeners who are wondering why. Why did God let me only go through that for about 2 years and rescue me then? And why was it, 18 years for you? Mm-hmm. And all we can say is we don't know either. But
we don't know. But then again,
sometimes that's the way we have to learn.
There are so many women that, how do I put this? There isn't anything that I haven't been through.
Right.
So when a woman comes to me and she needs help about something, I've already been there. I know what works, what didn't.
Right.
I know the advice to give them. I know how to help.
Right.
And so
sometimes we have to hold the cat by the tail, and some people let go earlier than others.
Yeah. Well, and it all depends on what the Lord wants us to, allows us to go through to help other people.
Exactly. I know that the Lord gave me ways out. Before I even got married to the first time, he gave me ways out, and I didn't take it. That was my own fault.
Right.
And then when he did give me a way out, I ran and didn't look back. So I think some of it is sometimes I have to say that sometimes we do. I'm not saying in your situation at all. I'm just saying that I know in my situation, I prolonged my situation because I did not listen and take the ways out. Because the Lord does say in his word, he will give you a way out.
Yes. And those are red flags. I was not a Christian.
Right.
I didn't know him at all when I got married.
Right.
And I learned about him later.
Right.
And
tragedy sometimes does that for us.
Yeah. And
I got closer to the Lord in those 2 years that I was married, the first marriage. Oh my gosh. I learned how to pray. I specific prayers. It wasn't like overall. I learned how to pray specifically. I learned how to go to the Lord when I had to. I felt, I got stronger by the end of that time period. And I think that's actually what scared him, is he saw that I was no longer real docile and he could walk over me, because the Lord had been working on me. He'd been teaching me how to pray. I saw miracles happen while I was married to him, because there was no other way out except the Lord had to do it. Thank you for letting us share our tools to become the women God created us to be. If we encouraged you today, visit us at moderndayabigails.com. Remember, you are loved, cherished, and prayed over.